Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Hello, Commissioner Jones.
Hey, good morning, Mayor.
Good to see you. Nice job again with the, nice job again with the MLK breakfast.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you much.
Good morning, Commissioner Moody.
Good morning, Madam Mayor. Good morning to you all.
Morning.
All right. Good morning, Commissioner Lanier. And Commissioner Issa. All right. Looks like we're all here, so we'll go ahead and get started with our second meeting of the new year. We have a full agenda today, commissioners, a number of action items, and then we do have an executive session. So immediately following, I'll ask for a motion to go in executive session to discuss property acquisition. And then we do, those of you who are on the legislative team, we have legislative team at 1:30 and then public safety at 3 o'clock. And then we'll be back together tonight at 7. So with that, we'll go ahead and kick off this committee of the whole meeting, and we'll start with the first item. And this is a resolution approving a Class C redevelopment liquor license for Earl Butcher LLC, located at 1106 and 1108 Wealthy Street Southeast. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Let's see, City Clerk, you going to tell us about this?
Yeah, just real quickly. When any of these get to this point, they've gone through all their vetting process. So fairly routine, this one and the next one.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? All right, City Clerk, will you call the vote?
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving a new on-premises tasting room permit for Kombucha on Tap LLC, located at 1059 Wealthy Street Southeast.
I'll move it.
Support. All right, moved and supported. I was thinking Commissioner O'Connor might move and support it since he loves kombucha. City Clerk, you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, just once again, once it gets to this point, it's gone through all its approvals for all the different departments.
All right, it'll be nice to have this business available to all of us. Any questions or comments, commissioners? All right, seeing none, City Clerk, you want to go ahead and call the vote?
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Sassi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution establishing an industrial development district for Pergo Company at 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest. Can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have Mr. Gracia here with us today to tell us about this item.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Before you is to establish this the district for the Pergo North American headquarters at the to be addressed 430 Monroe Avenue Northwest. Again, this is a 10-story, 127,000 square foot liner building, of which Pergo will take approximately half of that building and locate 150 new jobs to the city of Grand Rapids. Again, this project was in national competition with National Site Consultants, and we were selected over the Southwest Florida and Chicago markets. The result of this investment, $34.5 million for this particular component of the project, will result in a net tax revenue source for the city of approximately $2.6 million over the term of the agreement. So staff recommends approval.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Gracia. And I'll start off, and I see Ms. Birgit Close is here to join us as well. She's been a key partner in this project. And I'll start off just by really thanking all of the partners who worked for well over a year and truly brought together a proposal that allowed us to compete with a city as large as Chicago. So I know a lot of work went into this, not just locally and with our partners like The Right Place, but also at the state level with MEDC. as well as MSU. I see Mr. Jerry Koyman joining us as well. MSU has been a significant partner in this, as well as the Smart Zone. So I'll start by just thanking all of our partners who worked so hard to bring this forward today. It's a significant win for our community and a significant development in the second ward, actually. So I'll open it up for questions or comments and see if either Mr. Koyman or Ms. Burgett want to add anything. Maybe I'll start off with seeing if either of you want to add anything to what Mr. Gracia already shared.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mayor. And as I have said for my 33 years in economic development, leading the right place, this is a team sport, and this was a great team when we had the opportunity to talk to Perigo, like you said, over a year ago, and really competed not just with Chicago, but also with Southwest Florida. Two, obviously, this would be including Miami, two large cities. And we made the case with the city, the right place, the MEDC, the governor got involved personally, obviously MSU, our friends at Rockford, to make the case that part of the ecosystem that has been developed on the medical mile. Obviously, over the last 20 years, from the Van Andel Institute to all the investments in Spectrum Health and children's hospitals, the advent of Michigan State's College of Human Medicine and their growth, Grand Valley and their growth. And I think the case that we made as partners for Perigo to be part of that ecosystem really resonated with the company. And so I look at this as a huge win for the city and the region. Perigo has been as a 130-year company in West Michigan. It grew up here. It's now a $5 billion global enterprise. And I can tell you from my experience over all these years in economic development, when you have a project of this magnitude land in a community of our size, I mean, a company of this size, that could really go anywhere, it also resonates beyond our own city. It resonates with other businesses who say, oh, if Perigo can do this, let's take a look at Grand Rapids. So my expectation is that as the innovation park from MSU continues to grow, as Medical Mile sort of makes its way north on Monroe, that the city will have other opportunities for more investment. And so the other thing is, this is the fourth leg of a stool. You know, we have research, we have education, and we have world-class healthcare. And now we have a world-class company to join that ecosystem. And I'm very proud of the team who kept them here, because they obviously, like all of us, companies have choices. So I appreciate deeply the collaboration with the city and all the other partners, and because, like I said, we won a big one. So with that, I'll turn it over to my friend Jerry.
Thanks, and commissioners and Mayor Bliss. Happy to be with you, and it's kind of hard to follow one of the best economic development specialists in the country and try to add what you said. But this really, when we started the process of developing the innovation park at the corner of Michigan and Monroe, this is what we were aiming for. Not necessarily this company, but a company like Perigo, and we are just thrilled that they're joining us at the Innovation Park. It's not only great that they're the corporate headquarters, and it's great for downtown Grand Rapids to have that, but more importantly, from our perspective, we just signed a collaboration agreement with them to do research and innovation together in healthcare and in self-care in particular, which is their focus. This hopefully will not be the last large corporate entity that joins the Innovation Park, but clearly it is a huge opportunity for both Perigo, but also for Michigan State University, our medical school students, residents from the community, and our medical partners up and down the hill as we work to really transform healthcare together. And so really excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry, and thanks for your leadership. And I'll add, and then I'll turn to my colleagues to open up for questions and comments. I feel like since I've been sitting in this seat, one of the primary things we've talked about, especially around the DDA, is how do we attract headquarters downtown, and it's a real win and helps us move closer to not just having one headquarters, but really being attractive to other headquarters to call Grand Rapids home. So thank you for that. All right, so I'll open it up. I think I'll start here with Commissioner Jones, who serves on our Smart Zone, as well as is active in the Michigan Street Corridor and obviously represents the Second Ward. So Commissioner Jones.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to Birgit and to Jerry for your presence here on this morning. Want to very much welcome Perigo into the Second Ward. Excited about the power of possibility, and to your point, Jerry, the hope is that we can garner more employers, both big and small, to our city, to our downtown area, but just to the city as a whole. So just really excited about what could occur from this. Hopefully this will be, I guess, start a domino effect. And I just wanted to make it public that the Second Ward is open for business. And so, Birgit, feel free to send all of the businesses to the Second Ward if you so choose.
Well, I'm a resident of the Second Ward, Commissioner, as you know, so.
As am I.
And so is Jerry.
Let's keep it hyper local. So thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioners, others who have questions or comments for any of the panelists. Commissioner Isasi, our other Second Ward Commissioner, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the update and the presentation. This is probably more on our city side, because I always think about when we have projects, what can be the multiplier effect? So Mayor Bliss, you talked about obviously bringing the headquarters into downtown, and I'd love to also add, how can we add to the additional goals that we set forth as a city, particularly around our economic development, mobile GR plan, our inclusive plan. I also have the honor of being on our inclusive learning labs with the Right Place this year with a number of other leaders, really looking at what are the dynamics that we need to change in the economic development space to create better conditions for all residents. So I really appreciate your leadership in that space as well, Birgit, and bringing together a whole host of people to talk about that issue. So mine is more sort of on our side versus, asking Birgit or Jerry for any information, because I know in our economic development project meeting, Perigo was already talking about filling some of the roles. So that's positive to hear. I'd love to give an update about how many of those 150 have already been filled, because I think that's a great story to share. And then additionally, I think on our side, Mr. Gracia and City Manager, is as we continue to look at this number of jobs that are created in our community, how many are coming from our different census tracts, different zip codes, so we can kind of track that, so we can make sure our initiatives around like our Grow 1000 or our economic recovery efforts, we are connecting all those points to create these good and quality jobs for people who live in our city. So I'd love to just talk more about how that will be shown in a dashboard, just how we can track that information so we can share that multiplier effect that projects like this have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sassi. That's a great question. I'll turn to Mr. Gracia. And I know you brought up this issue also when we talked in our economic development project team. And I think those are really good questions to ask and identify how do we track that. So Mr. Gracia, you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So it's right. Commissioner Sassi, they did refer to starting the hiring process. What we know is they've hired about 25 of those folks so far. Obviously working from home at this point, but that's the initial commitment here. Where they've been hired, we're still working to where they're from is a piece of information we have. But what we can say is overall, the company as a whole and what they have in Western Michigan, they have approximately 300 of their current employees that have a zip code that designates Grand Rapids as home per se. So there's already a significant amount of those, so that provides us another opportunity perhaps to grow the initial commitment that they're making today in the future. Now, what should also be noted is from today, from this approval on, this has now become a business retention and expansion project as much as we complete our attraction side. So we still have to make sure that we remove all those barriers and making sure that they get this construction under the timeline that they need to move people in. And then now we got to move into the retention expansion side, which includes connecting them to those programs like Grow 1000 and any other philanthropic opportunities that they have in the city, and be a voice for them and a connector for them to truly become a community and business partner in downtown. Which is also important is they're also creating, as we said, the importance of creating drawing a headquarters downtown. As we look at continuing the development on the housing side of the equation, this also provides another catalyst project to point to say what job opportunities there are potentially for you to live and be able to walk to from wherever those new housing developments are in the downtown area, or perhaps even up the hill for a ways as well. Keeping in mind that we build in the mobile GR side of the strategic plan, because it is the economic development and mobility strategic plan, and build around, again, the clustering and the density of jobs within the medical mile and how we enhance mobility efforts to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, other questions or comments? All right, Commissioner O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just want to say how excited I am about this choosing to relocate in West Michigan. Think about, 10, 15 years ago at the corner of Michigan and Monroe was a giant Grand Rapids Press building in an industry obviously we know has started to change significantly and is on the downturn. And that corner was not that Monuments in Grand Rapids was not the most pedestrian friendly or interactive with the street, and it really wasn't a vibrant corner in Grand Rapids. And to look at that corner today and see both Michigan State medical buildings and then this building here turning the corner to go north of Monroe, it's a significant amount of investment. It's a significant amount of jobs that have been created and will be created, and it also really defines what I think is a very important prominent corner in our community. To make it work better for people, and you look at the calculation we've used since I've sat around this table when we make these decisions. That yes, we are giving up property tax in the short term, but the return is a lot of jobs, which create significant amounts of income tax for Grand Rapids. And as we all know, the income tax dollars that we have are our flexible dollars to utilize to help fund initiatives to support people in Grand Rapids. And so. While we do give up property taxes for 12 years, there's a net gain of over $100,000, nearly $100,000 a year in income taxes that become, flexible tax dollars. And then there's the unloading effect of 12 years where, yes, it's off the tax roll for property taxes for 12 years, but when it comes back on the roll, they're investing $35 million today at just a 3% growth rate. In 12 years, that's a $50 million building that comes back on the tax rolls to collect that property tax load in 12 years. And so, this is an investment. As much as I think, we've gotten some pushback about why don't companies make this decision. This is a competitive world we live in. And, we have an economic development department for this reason, along with our partners at the Right Place and other institutions who work to try to attract these businesses. And it's, if we want to be competitive, we're adding 150 jobs at $31 an hour. That's $65,000 a year. These are paying high-tech jobs in a growing and a segment of our economy. So this is the kind of development we want and need in Grand Rapids to continue to make us, a world-class mid-sized city, as my colleague from the Second Ward likes to say.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor. That's a good point to make sure that we're always talking about, and that is the benefit, the long-term benefit, and the fact that the vast majority of our revenue for our general fund comes from income tax. So thank you for that. All right, other questions or comments? All right, Commissioner Lanier.
Commissioner O'Connor, thank you so much for your summary. One of the things I like most about you is how you take very complex issues and simplify them. And I'm seriously, this is seriously a compliment, because I know we jab each other and joke a lot, but and I think that's exactly what you just did in trying to respond to the public comments from during the public hearing, just trying to help the public to understand kind of this very complex issue. And so thank you for that. So I won't try in my own words, which aren't going to be as succinct and direct as yours are, but to try, I won't try and repeat that, but thank you for sharing it. I just wanted to also say to Birgit and to Jerry, which I think they're off now, thank you for your partnership and spending the time with all of your recruitment efforts to bring Perigo into our community. I mean, it's greatly appreciated, and I do think that this is, Birgit said, this is the fourth leg of the stool. And I really like that because I thought the same thing. Again, didn't have the creative words of saying it, but it does kind of, bring to the medical mile another component that may not have been there as it ties specifically to the pharmaceutical area. And so thank you for saying it that way, because I do think that that's a great component to all of the great work that has happened on the medical mile. And for me, because my office, whenever I am downtown, is right across the street. So I get to see the construction, and that's exciting for me. So that's my second ward connection, besides being a Creston polar bear, but that's a whole nother story. But to see the construction being built and to see like all of this work coming to fruition is exciting. And so thank you to city staff and to our partners for the work that you've done to bring us here. And I'll just close with, I think, the partnership that we've talked about with Perigo and some of the community goodwill that they've already done and being a great partner in our city. And that's before being having their headquarters located here. So I think the best is yet to come. And so I appreciate the conversation Birgit and I were able to have about some of those specific things and how they've been community oriented already in our great city. So thank you all for your work on this.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioners, any final thoughts before I turn to our city clerk? I see Commissioner Ruppert has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can see the site out of my window because I'm actually downtown today. But I just want to say that I just want to appreciate the people that did ask the questions that they asked. And the questions that they ask are, is what we're giving up worth what we're getting? And I think that, we now have this equitable economic development plan that asks those questions earlier and earlier in the process as these things are being developed. And so I think that it's worth asking for every big project, is what we're giving up worth what we're getting? And I think that I'm thankful to Jeremiah and his team and to Birgit and her team for asking those questions earlier and earlier in the process so that we can have more and more assurance that we will be getting the outcomes that we want to see happen. And so I just want to, again, affirm our equitable economic development plan that pushes those questions further into the process so that we don't get to a final decision like this and have to backtrack. So I think that given what I've seen on paper and what I believe will happen, that what we're giving up is worth what we're going to get from this project.
Thanks, Commissioner. Well said. Any final thoughts? Commissioner Moody, did you want to weigh in? I know you've been actively involved in these conversations as well, especially with the Economic Development Project team.
Madam Mayor, I'm excited about the fact that Perigo is going to be in Grand Rapids and the development that's going to take place is going to be to our economic strength. That's where I'm at. I'm excited about it. And also, I know Jerry's, I remember at one time, Jerry, if I'm not correct, lived in the 3rd Ward. So I hope that Jerry will bring some of his talent back to the 3rd Ward so that we can progressively grow like the 1st and 2nd Ward. So I would like for them to consider all the business coming back to the 3rd Ward. I need downtown to come uptown.
Well said, Commissioner, and I think you were absolutely right about where he used to live. Jerry, you want to weigh in on that or just give a thumbs up?
No comment.
All right. So commissioners, with that, I'm going to turn to our city clerk and ask him to call the question.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruppert,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, Commissioners, the next two are companion items, so I'll go ahead and read this next one. It's a resolution approving an application for a 12-year industrial facilities exemption certificate pursuant to PA 198 of 1974 for the same project for Perigo Company at 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. Commissioners, any additional questions or comments about this? All right, I'll turn to our city clerk.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody, Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries.
Did
And
you call
then,
my name?
Yeah, I did. Go ahead, Commissioner Moody.
Oh, I didn't hear it. I'm sorry. Yes.
thank you, Commissioner. And then the third item related to this project is a resolution approving an application for a 12-year new personal property exemption certificate pursuant to PA 328 of 1998 for the same project, Perigo Company at 400 Monroe Avenue Northwest. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Any final questions or comments? All right, we'll turn to the city clerk to call this vote.
Commissioner Moody. Sassy.
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, that will take us to our next item, and this is a resolution approving a brownfield plan amendment for 1601 Madison LLC redevelopment project at 1601 Madison Avenue Southeast, which is in the 3rd Ward, let me add, since we're talking about wards this morning. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved and supported. It looks like we have Mr. Klooster. There he is. Mr. Klooster here to tell us about this item.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So this is the final approval for a project that you held a public hearing on at your last meeting, a project that's proposed as a partnership between Rockford Construction and Amplify GR for the property at 1601 Madison, which I think most of you are familiar with, the former Dexter Lock property. This project is really the first phase of the redevelopment of the 10-acre site, and this phase would include demolition of the entire 250,000 square foot building and construction of a new 60,000 square foot building on the northeast corner of the site. The building would be generally an industrial building consistent with the industrial flex zoning of the property. The project at the end of the day would result in 95 new jobs in Grand Rapids. 69 of those jobs would be transferred in, and 26 of those would be newly created jobs with wages that range from about $18.50 to $33.50 per hour. The development group has committed to working with its proposed tenant to ensure that at least 30% of the new hires are residents of the 49507 zip code, and that 30% of the construction value of the project is completed by a combination of minority-owned, women-owned, and 49507-based construction groups. The action today is the approval of the brownfield plan amendment, which would provide for reimbursement of up to $2.2 million of brownfield eligible costs, both environmental and non-environmental costs. It's worth pointing out that this project really is the development of 3 acres, but in order to get there, they have to deal with 10 acres of property. So it's kind of a large request, and the city's support of this is really critical to getting this overall 10-acre site really moving in the right direction. So after approval, the next steps here would be to continue working with the Brownfield Authority, Southtown Corridor Improvement Authority, and our partners at the state, both at the MEDC and with Eagle, to finalize support and approvals for the financing of this phase of the project.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Klooster. All right, commissioners, questions or comments? This is an exciting project over on Madison. So I'll open it up. Maybe I'll start with our 3rd Ward commissioners. I know you've been actively engaged in this project and in the neighborhood. So Commissioner Lanier, you want to start?
Sure. Thanks, Jono, for the summary and the detailed background and the details within the memo as well. I think to the mayor's point, I think it is a very exciting project that's a long time coming. And I think the developers have been trying to find the right project to start in this area of town. And I think this is because it has a job development component to it. And I think that that's a really good aspect where there will be a connection with students. And and workforce development is critical in 49507. So that's a really good component. And the wages of the jobs are a higher wage as well. And I think that that's another aspect. So I am excited that the work that went into the BASP, and as we were making some zoning proposed zoning changes to this area, that one of those changes was to create an industrial flex, which provided a little bit more flexibility for these types of projects in this very, in the past, heavy industrial site and area. And so I'm happy to see this start and looking forward to what the future holds. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Lanier. Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am excited that this is finally getting off the ground and moving forward. I think as we began to develop things within the third ward, and people see things that are happening, opportunity for other developments to take place. So I am glad that it's moving forward. I look for this to be a continued success in the community.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this item? Is Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I too am excited about this project. And I just, I want to go back to sort of some of the trying to do what Commissioner Lanier said in the last comments about breaking this down and making it easy. And, this is a brownfield plan. And I think, there's an important context to brownfield in the idea that, it's a tool that makes sites in urban locations that have had past developments as well, which often come with environmental challenges, competitive with sites located in other places like the suburbs, where you might take an old cornfield that doesn't have any, it's a greenfield site, not a brownfield site, meaning it's never had development. So there's not contamination issues, there's not lead and asbestos, there's not things that make that site difficult to develop. They don't exist in that location. And this is not a tax giveaway. This is a developer must make a significant investment to remediate the site, to bring it to a standard which they can then redevelop. And so there's an extremely high outlay of capital, which increases the cost of construction and development on this site to bring it to a place in Grand Rapids where jobs and investment are sorely needed to make it competitive. And so we, as the governing authority, have the ability to be a partner in this process to create a financing mechanism to allow these types of developments to get off the ground. And they are slowly paid back over the course of 25 years. And again, things appreciate over that course of time. So us making an investment on the front end that will be paid back slowly over 25 years will create jobs, will create investment in a place where it's much easier to go someplace that's green and develop versus taking a very difficult old building and turning it into something productive that creates really good paying jobs with significant commitments to creating outcomes that we've asked for in Grand Rapids. And so I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the opportunity to take something that's not, a building that's not productive on our tax rolls and put some employment in place and really help people at the end of the day. And I think that's one of the exciting roles that we get to have as a local governing body.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner O'Connor. And commissioners, you all saw in the packet that we do have a copy of the brownfield plan. And I just think it's important to point out, as Commissioner O'Connor said, that, our support will help with really significant environmental remediation, including asbestos removal, demolition, vapor mitigation. It is a contaminated site that is going to be quite costly to clean up. And that is the point of brownfield, is that we know we need to compete with greenfields out there where, a developer could go and build on a greenfield at little to no cost versus coming and redeveloping a site where there's significant contamination or old buildings that need to be demolished. So thank you, Commissioner O'Connor, for bringing that forward. I think it's important for us to talk about that every time we have an item like this before us. All right, commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll turn to our city clerk to call for the vote.
Commissioner Eastasti,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
It carries. All right, commissioners, that will take us to our next item. There we go. Our next three items are related to grant applications. So we'll start with the very first one. This is a resolution scheduling a public hearing to consider submittal of 4 grant applications for the Riverwalk Trail between Leonard and Ann Street. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have our Parks Director here to tell us about this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. This first item is to schedule a public hearing for the grant application we intend to submit to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Grant applications are due by April 1st of every year. This grant application does consist of 4 separate requests totaling $300,000. That's the cap amount that can be requested by any department. And so we are submitting four application requests totaling about $1.2 million for a roughly $6 million project. This public hearing will be an important component to building on the feedback that we've had through the River for All planning effort and GR Forward and the Parks Strategic Master Plan as well. We talk about growing a city with good jobs and good places to live and being an attractive place. The department does believe that, good trails, connectivity, and parks contribute to that. So we are excited for this submittal.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll ask our city clerk to call the question.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. And a reminder, this will be before us for a public hearing on February 23rd. All right, next up take us to a resolution scheduling a public hearing to consider a submittal of a grant application for land acquisition of Plaza Roosevelt Park.
So moved.
All right, moved and supported by our first ward commissioners who I know have been actively engaged in Plaza Roosevelt. Let's see, our Parks Director, you want to tell us about this one as well?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is another important project that we are advancing for grant request from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Again, a public hearing that we are seeking to schedule for February 23rd. There has been a tremendous amount of public engagement around this project and good momentum and strong partnerships that have been built to date in getting us to this point. This is roughly an 82.
Mr. Record, I think you froze there for a minute. Can you finish your thought?
Thank you, City Clerk. Yes, so this is roughly an $82,000 project. The match amount would be coming from the Parks Millage Fund, the new millage that was passed in 2019. And I think it's important to note as well that this is one of many pieces that are currently in play in getting us to the acquisition strategy that we have outlined in our city's strategic master plan, which proposes, adding 38 acres of parkland to the 3rd Ward and neighborhoods of focus.
Thank you. Appreciate your work on this. So commissioners, any questions or comments about this item? This again will be before us for a public hearing on February 23rd.
No comment, just dancing and excited about it.
Yeah, it's a really great project. And I'll just add, early on in the conversation about Plaza Roosevelt, when we first started having a conversation about creating some public park land and space there, a number of city staff members came together to work with them to make this happen. So I just want to say thank you. I was a part of some of those early conversations and just really appreciate city staff coming alongside them to bring this forward. So, all right, with that, I'll turn to our city clerk to call for the vote.
Commissioner Lanier,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, and our last item before us is another resolution scheduling a public hearing to consider submittal of a grant application for the renovation of Richmond Park. Can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, moved and supported. I'll turn again to our Parks Director to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mayor. We are pleased to be making this renovation to Richmond Park Playground specifically. We have had really great success and significant and really important public feedback on the first universal play space that we created down in Ottawa Hills in the 3rd Ward, excuse me, in the 3rd Ward. And as such, we are advancing with other play spaces that have that same level of inclusive play, the next of which will be out here at Richmond Park. So this is totaled to be about a $450,000 project. We are seeking $150,000 from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. And again, grant funds will be matched by park millage funds, and we are seeking to set a public hearing for February 23rd with the other grant requests.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll turn to our city clerk to call for the vote.
Commissioner Jones,
My answer is yes.
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. All right, we'll look forward to all of those public hearings next month and hopefully moving forward with some successful grant awards come April. So with that, commissioners, we have an executive session. So I'd like to ask one of you to make a motion to move into executive session. And there's been a separate link for that. So can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. And again, this is executive session related to property acquisition. So City Clerk, will you call the vote for that?
Commissioner O'Connor,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Isasi,
Yes.
Commissioner Repart,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
and Mayor Bliss.
Yes, it carries. And then just a reminder, commissioners, why don't we take a 5-minute break before we go into executive session? So if you want to fill up your coffees or you need a break. And then just quick reminder that we do have legislative at 1:30, public safety at 3, and then we're back together tonight at 7. We have one scheduled public hearing tonight, and that is related to the Regional Consolidated Housing and Community Development Plan. So with that, we will recess this committee of the whole, and we'll see you back here at 7.